Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Simisola Adigun. There's widespread condemnation for the brutal killing of 16 hunters from Kano State by a vigilante group at Uromi, Edo State. According to reports, the 16 hunters were among 25 travelers on their way to Kano State for the Eid-el-Fitr celebrations who were intercepted by the vigilante on the suspicion that they were kidnappers and were lynched to death. Governor Monday Okpebholo of Edo State has now pledged that swift justice will be served for the 16 slain hunters. Okpebholo made the pledge when he paid a condolence visit to the bereaved families at Torankawa in Kano State in company of Governor Abba Yusuf. While expressing deep sorrow over the tragic incident, Okpebholo said the government will not relent until justice is served, adding that 14 people have been arrested and moved to Abuja for interrogation. Currently, police, military and plainclothes security agents have taken over strategic junctions in Uromi to stave off reprisals. Joining me to discuss more on this is a former Assistant Director at the Department of State Services, Mr. Dennis Amakri. Thank you very much for coming on the program. Now, judging from what has played out ever since, what do you make of this unfortunate incident? I mean, vigilante groups are not new in Nigerian communities, and they've no doubt been helpful over the years.
Okay, thank you very much for having me. You see, we have to look at the root causes because these things will continue happening. You know, it will not be the last time. And if we don't look at the root causes and take care of those root causes, then they will continue happening. Now, what do I mean? We've had these killings all over the place. You know, we have these killings, and it is because of these killings that you have vigilante groups, even like Amotekun, you know, and these groups have been taking care of some of the bushes, the forests, the ungoverned spaces that we have. But we have to regulate it properly. You know, regulate it in the sense that these vigilante groups should be reporting to a formal law enforcement agency. You know, they cannot operate on their own. And when they start operating on their own, then of course they go descend all the way down to jungle justice and other kinds of things that are happening. So I think there is work to be done about this particular issue.
Now, the government has repeatedly called on local vigilante groups and hunters to step in to fill security gaps in the fight against bandits and terrorists in Nigeria. However, the Edo State governor described these vigilante groups as illegal. Now, what makes a vigilante group legal, and how should, well, you've mentioned that they should report to higher authority, but then what's the process like in seeing that these vigilante groups are legal?
Well, I'm so surprised about for the governor, because this is not the first time, this is not the right time for him to come and say that that vigilante group is illegal or this one is legal. Vigilante groups have been existing for long. And you know, if you think very seriously about it, vigilante groups were formed basically to protect the communities, because we've had history of herdsmen going and killing in the bush. And the best thing is that, you know, these communities should start to, you know, take care of themselves, you know, and it has continued like that. And of course, this self-help program has been, you know, giving birth to different kinds of vigilante groups. Like you hear of the Amotekun and all the rest of in the Western states and everywhere. Most states have their own vigilante groups that they use. Now, which one is legal and which one is not legal, I don't know. But they should have even legalized, or should I say register them before anything like this come to happen. But if you don't, until when something like this happens, then you come and say they are illegal or not illegal, I think it's just begging the question. because the root causes, like I said, is for the people to protect themselves, and there has been a lot of killings, and I don't know whether those killings have been fully addressed.
Now, this incident brings to mind similar ones where people have taken the law into their own hands and commit these condemnable acts of jungle justice. We understand that activities of kidnappers in the area might have triggered the action, like, it has been told in times past. How significant is this particular incident in highlighting the dangers of mob actions or jungle justice, as the case may be, in Nigeria?
You know that people have been pushed to the corner, whereby they are really, really worried about their own security. And of course, for people to now come back and say, hey, let us get a vigilante group, and these vigilantes are actually working. They don't, they stay up at night. They go into the bushes and they come across some of these people. This is not the first time vigilantes have been arresting, people marauding in the forest and stuff like that. And of course, you find out that a lot of killings, especially around Uromi area, a lot of killings are taking place. And that's why I think the governor himself should go back and look at it, talk to the security agencies and find out, what has happened about those killings that happened in Uromi before, because they've been doing these killings and people are just crying. And I'm surprised that this time everybody is taking it so seriously. This is what should have happened all the time when people are being killed. So I think we regulate the process, the procedures or the processes of these people. Let them not descend to jungle justice, because some people are so angry losing their family members and they feel that, look, this is the right time there's no need to go and call police or anything like that. Let's just finish it up. But that's not how it should be.
Right. Now, response mechanisms in the country have also always been a matter of concern. The response of the police in matters like this, from details provided, there was enough time for the police to storm the scene and control or prevent further harm, but nothing of such happened.
Well, that is, the problem with the police. Because for a place like Uromi, there's a DPO. That's a DPO. How can he say that something like, and that's why I'm saying that there's a disconnect between the vigilante groups and the police. Because if there's a connection or a reporting line, when they find these police, arrest them, and they've even discovered arms and ammunition with them, the next person to call is the DPO. And the DPO will quickly send his men down there. And then, of course, remove all these people for better interrogation on what they are doing, where they are going, why they are carrying those kind of arms. But there is nothing like that. And apparently I can tell you that maybe the people don't even trust that distrust between the community people and the police must have caused a situation whereby they will say, don't even think about him. Let's do what we have to do, and they went ahead and do this. So I think the police should start taking charge of their area and make sure that these kind of things don't happen.
All right. Mr. Makri, we'll continue this conversation after this break. Do stay with us. The program will continue shortly. Welcome back. We're still discussing the killing of 16 hunters in Uromi, Edo State. And my guest is still the former Assistant Director at the DSS, Dennis Amakri. Thank you very much, sir, for staying with us. Now, so far, Governor Kwebolo of Edo State has suspended the head of the Edo State Security Corps. But then, do state government have the capacity to handle these various security groups and security initiatives as well, so that their duties are defined?
For state police, and when the state police comes, the state governors are supposed to be the ones that are going to supervise the operations of these state police. And I think that, in fact, all these vigilantes popping up in different places, because everybody was thinking that, yes, we really need security down at the grassroots level. And this is the chance for them to even practice on how they will be dealing with the state police. And in fact, state police are not supposed to be one for political to fight your political enemies. It is meant for the security of the communities. So the governors are well placed to take care and follow the procedures, or even write down or gazette all the procedures that they are supposed to follow. The police is supposed to cooperate with the governor in doing this, so that these vigilantes are properly managed. So yes, the governor he has the capacity to do this.
Right. So let's discuss the issue of arms possession, which is one of the factors that sealed the fate of these hunters. With the current state of the nation, only uniformed officials can legally possess weapons, and they're let go. And what should the government do in this case? Hunters cannot be found without their ordained guns, but then what can be done to prevent this kind of incidents from happening?
Well, the thing is this: vigilante groups popped up all over the country because of the threat of herdsmen and all kinds of bandits, who are operating in the ungoverned spaces of the country. And of course, when they are going to help, they have to carry some form of arms. Yes, some of them are supposed to be hunters and carrying Dane guns, which they use in their hunting, not to fight the bandits. Now, if that is the situation, then they should have a very strong link with the police, where, as hunters, if they observe that there are some kind of movement, of some people, unknown people, then they could be the eyes and ears, and also report down to the police and tell them, look, this is what we have seen. They are not supposed to engage. Okay? They are not supposed to engage. So if they are supposed to engage, as most of them are now doing, then the form of arms that they are going to carry is supposed to improve. Because you cannot be fighting a bandit with AK-47s while you are carrying Dane guns. It's not done, It's like carrying a knife to a gunfight. So we will expect that when these things are, being formalized, then you should go ahead and register them. And if you register them, then you should also provide arms for them.
Registered
so that you know the control of what is happening before they can really possess those arms and ammunition.
There's now fear of a reprisal. Matter of fact, there's a video circulating online where a young man from the north has threatened that if the issue is not properly handled by the government, they will take revenge on southerners in the northern state. What should the government do to avert looming disaster?
Well, I think that's a good job for the Minister of Information and Public Orientation to do. Because like I told you, there are fundamental, root causes. And you will see that this particular incident in Uromi has brought out other things like religious intolerance, ethnicity, where people don't, these are root causes. These are things that they have in them that, they've not been able to express openly. And when things like this happen, then they start talking. I saw that video, where the guy was talking about killing of Southerners because they are Muslims, and anybody who insult their leader is supposed to be killed and stuff like that. I think that we should be past that kind of rhetorics. And we should be able to, adjust people's mind to change that kind of narrative. Because if we allow these things to fester, like I said, many Christians were killed in the north. Nothing really happened. And then, of course, when there is a killing in the south, then you see a lot of people coming out, and then even the governor of Kano State was really talking tough the other day. But, the root causes have to be addressed. It is not what we are just seeing. Those ones are symptoms. The root causes of ethnicity, the root causes of religious intolerance have to be looked into properly to avoid this kind of situation in future.
Finally, the Edo State government says 14 people have been arrested and moved to Abuja for interrogation. That's 14 people arrested in connection to the crime. What protective measures should be adopted, and what steps can be taken to ensure improved working relations between the government and local security outfits? I know you mentioned certain steps, but now in terms of enhancing intelligence gathering and response strategies against criminal elements in the country.
Oh, well, the governor has taken some steps to make sure that, this illegality, because of course, jungle justice is an illegal thing to do. And of course, they've been arrested, they've been taken for interrogation, but that's not where it should end. I think this is the time to now gather these vigilantes or whoever, and then sit down with them, and then, of course, properly seek some advice from either the DSS and the police to make sure that they structure the vigilante properly. Who is going to supervise them? What is their communication systems? Who do they report to? And stuff like that. So this is the best time to do that. Because if you just arrest some people because tempers are high, and then, you allow people the vigilantes to continue until they meet another set of people again with guns and ammunition, then there is nothing we can do about it, because people are angry. People have lost their family members, and you cannot overlook that. And if the vigilantes are being formed to take care of that situation, then the governor should come in and, of course, formally structure them, because we don't want them to go into illegality, but we want the services they provide. So let us formalize this, and then, of course, create certain structures, communication lines, and stuff like that for them.
Well, as we speak, the community tempers are high, like you mentioned, in the communities. They are scared of a reprisal, and hopefully the government controls the situation before that reprisal is carried out, which will be far worse. Mr. Dennis Amakri, former Assistant Director at the Department of State Services, we appreciate you sharing your thoughts on the program. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you for having me.
That's it on this episode of the program. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again next time.